That was quick. I don't know what I was expecting when it transitioned, but here I am. All right, making sure that my audio is set up correctly. It is. Okay. So far, I have not messed up anything yet. So far, so good. Hello, everybody. I am Jessica, and I am here with Raul, and together we are Catch Justice. I appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Sorry we missed you all last week.
That
Um,
was my fault, and I'm so sorry. I was really under the weather, and I was physically and mentally drained, and I needed like 3 days to find myself again. It was a lot.
Well, I'm glad that you're feeling better, very much so. And you are totally allowed to take breaks and do what you need to do to take care of yourself because you can't help other people if you're not healthy and taking care of yourself. Um, yeah, and I was okay with taking last week off too. Um, yeah, a lot going on over here, so I also needed just a break in general, mental health break. So
Well, I'm
I'm
so glad to see you.
Yes, I'm so glad to see you. I'm so happy to see you every week.
We chat all the time, but still, it's nice to
I
see you.
know. Like I message you every day. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna complain about this or show you this or yeah, we do chat a lot, but I appreciate you so much. I love you so very much. Um,
The feeling is very neutral. I had two quick things to say. It's very noisy on my street today. The pollen is insane. So if I just mute myself to sneeze or hide my face for a little bit because I'm suffering allergies today, it's going to be a long day. And two, I don't know how I feel about these light strip around me. I don't know if it's too silly or what, but I'm not sure. Might just take it all down.
there's, I mean, I think in order to be a streamer, you have to have some sort of lighting behind you. I think that's a
Yeah.
requirement. It looks fine. I'm maybe if you want to like I don't know, secure it differently or something, but I think it looks fine.
Yeah,
I
in the
have
drawer in the
I
closet
no.
somewhere.
I was like I got lights down here somewhere.
Yeah.
There's no yeah. And I'm sorry that pollen is crazy. We're
Bonkers.
yeah, I don't think I have allergies for where I live right now yet. Nothing's bothered me yet. The dog is allergic to a lot of stuff, but she's on allergy medication.
Yeah.
Uh,
Before you get started, I did want to just say one brief thing. That yesterday was Dawn Michelle Holt's birthday. Should have turned 49. And I know that I shared Dawn's story and her family was in the chat, and I just wanted to just give some feedback from Dawn's sister. She said she felt so much love and support in the chat, and that was so endearing because that's the community we want to be in and around and with and part of. And to everybody that engaged um, with 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 the family in the chat with Sherry, it was very special for her, and I'm just conveying that message back. And I think that was also part of why I think I needed last week off too. It's a lot of um, decompression that I don't afford myself. And I said something on Joe's show the other day when I found myself laughing, and I'm like, oh my god, I shouldn't be laughing, but I was like, I don't remember the last time I laughed like heartily, and yeah. So I'm back. I'm 100% again, and 110%, and I'm ready for today.
Well, I'm glad that you're back 110%. And yes, happy birthday to Dawn. And it's a beautiful thing to hear that kind of feedback from, family members and they actually feel the support. I mean, that's the entire point of us doing what we're doing to help raise awareness and be a healthy part of this community. This community is going to exist no matter what. So if we can put a safe space in there for murder victims' families, for the missing, then I'm all for it. So that's wonderful to hear. That makes me very, very happy.
I love seeing some of our friends join in. Thank you for being here, Mary Storm. You mean a lot to me.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody that takes the time out to Um, Sorry, I'm like trying to read and talk at the same time and I can't do it. So I'm gonna move along before I forget my train of thought. Um, so for me, today I will be talking about two different cases. They're two different people, two different cases. However, they are from one family. This is one family and two completely separate cold cases. One of the family members was murdered in 2016. The other, so November of 2016, and then the other one was murdered June of 2019. So not even 3 years apart. This family had to deal with these two separate homicides in less than 3 years. And when I was looking at the family does interviews every now and again, and when I was looking up stuff for today, I pulled up one of the recent articles, and somebody commented and say they probably should have been careful the company that they kept. First of all, how dare you? You know nothing about them. You know absolutely nothing about either one of these gentlemen. I know his family, and whatever perception you have of them, this is not the correct perception. But that's definitely one of the issues. Murder victims are frequently blamed for what happened to them. Nobody deserves to be murdered like that. Nobody deserves that, whether you're a sex worker, whether you're, if you do sell drugs, I mean, I can't speak on like the cartel level, but like these neighborhood drug dealers that are trying to make money, and people are getting killed over the stupidest things, but these guys weren't involved in any of that.
I mean,
The
how often do we see that? Like the victim gets blamed for what happened to them.
Yeah,
Someone else takes their
far too
life and then
often.
blames them for it. I mean, even with you and Austin, like it was the same thing. And I deal with it incessantly. With the victims of Gilgo Beach and defending the family members and the legacies of the victims themselves.
Hmm.
Like, why? What is so wrong with society that everybody's got to go find fault in the person who lost their life? Even when you go back to Gilgo, I mean Richard Dormer and the Verone, they were basically saying the public's safe because you're not in that line of work.
Hmm.
That's horrible. That's absolutely horrible.
Right, yeah, and like Kai said, victim shaming, blaming is disgusting. It absolutely is, and I think part of it is that people want to disconnect themselves from something so horrible happening, so they want to put it out there that could never be me because of XYZ. But it can happen to anybody at any time, and people say, oh, it never happens where it's just a stranger. It's this. There's plenty of cases where it's just a stranger, especially now. There have been more and more reports of random violence in the streets. People are doing absolutely nothing. Women are being attacked, walked up and punched in major cities. Like this is happening all over the country. So these women aren't to blame what happened to them. And so many times murder victims do get blamed. So when I saw that comment, I got so mad. And yeah, Austin was also blamed for what happened to him. They tried to say he was drunk. He definitely was not drunk. And when we started getting into some of the legal stuff, the defense was asking about him like back in like fifth grade. What the hell does it matter how he was in fifth grade? He's 30. Like they try to look at every little thing in your life. Like, God forbid something happens to you, they're going to drudge up everything that you've ever done in your entire life. And nobody's perfect. Like the Bible says, he who is without sin cast the first stone. Nobody's perfect. And yeah, it enrages me so much, and I could go on and on and on about it, but it makes me very upset. And people do assume things about specific demographics, it must be their fault. They must be involved in gangs or violence or whatever. And young black men are in a much higher chance of being murdered. I think it was, I don't know if it's three times more likely or four times more likely that African American children are going to lose their dad over the white counterparts, either to gun violence or drugs. But most of the time, it's gun violence. Drug overdoses typically stay in, with white people. That's a white people thing. It's just, yes, the statistics are there, and it doesn't mean that they're doing anything wrong. It's they happen to be live in a neighborhood, or they happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, or somebody's jealous of their shoes, or whatever it is. It doesn't. There's so many cases like that. There's so many grieving mothers that I have met where their son was in college and trying to do good, or was worked 18-hour days or 16-hour days as a security guard, like Christopher Mena that I showed on one of the other episodes. Like, a very hardworking man took care of his mom. Like, people think that it's just gangbangers and drug dealers. It's not. These are good people. And I wish that there wasn't such a stigma when it comes to this kind of stuff. But there is. And I think that's another reason why true crime is so popular, because it's like watching a train crash. They can't look away, and they want to see it because it's so unbelievable that this could happen. So it's just, yeah. But I'll get off my soapbox because I'll keep going for the next hour about it. So I'm going to share a flyer. I have some video to share. So, nope, this is not the flyer I wanted. Hold on. Of course, I put the wrong one. Let's see, window, it's this one. Okay. So this is Edmond. Edmond was the first one to be murdered. So I know the aunt of these two gentlemen, Edmond and Joseph. I know their aunt Sharon, and she's a wonderful person. She's very sweet, very involved locally in Harris County, involved in parents and murdered children. That's how I've met her. So Edmond was murdered in his apartment Saturday, November 12th at approximately 8:25. He was shot to death in his apartment at 9400 Woodfair Drive in Houston. He heard somebody knocking on the front door. He opened the door and was shot by a black male wearing a sweatshirt. A witness inside the apartment observed two suspects before she escaped out of a bedroom window in the courtyard of the apartment complex. The suspect and a second black male suspect confronted the witness at gunpoint. The suspects fled the location on foot in an unknown direction of travel. Suspect 1 is a black male, dark complexion, approximately 17 to 20 years old, 5'6" to 5'7", wearing a hooded sweatshirt, unknown pistol. Suspect number 2, black male, dark complexion, approximately 17 to 20 years old, 5'6" to 5'7". There is a reward for this by Crime Stoppers of Houston. It's a $5,000 reward. Both of them actually have rewards. So in this situation, I'm guessing, I mean, these are young kids, 17, 20 years old. There's been a lot of kids that age robbing people recently. We just had a 22-year-old sentenced to 60 years in Houston for murdering an off-duty police officer that was having dinner with his friend who was also a police officer in the Houston area off of Westheimer. They walked up to rob them, but he shot both of them. Only 22 years old, sentenced to 60 years. For what? So it's not like it's unfathomable that these kids are doing these things and just taking people's lives for no reason. So this could have very well have been a robbery gone bad. Just because it's 8:25 in the morning doesn't mean that it couldn't have been something like that. Bad things happen all the time. So this happened November of 2016. So right before the holidays, unfortunately. And then his cousin, Joseph, was murdered in June of 2023. So on June 28th, 2019 at 10 p.m., several gunshots were heard before Joseph Billie was found lying on a roadway with a fatal gunshot wound at 3500 block of Hundo Street in Houston. It is unknown if the suspect left the area on foot or in a vehicle, and the family is asking for help. Both of these are through Crime Stoppers of Houston. And then I do have a video, the most recent interview that the aunt did that I'm going to share. Oh, whoops. I think I just accidentally removed you. How do I think, could you re-add yourself? Did I? Okay. Whoops. I clicked the wrong thing. But yeah, not a whole lot of information to go on in either one of these. Like what kind of description is that? 17, they both have the exact same description. So like that's not really a whole lot of information to go off of. So this video is about 7 minutes long. So this is going to be his aunt talking and one of the cousins talking.
Morning, but first I want to spend time talking about the pain one family has endured for years. The murder of two young men years apart, not connected, both unsolved. Edmond Ford was murdered inside his apartment on Woodfair Drive in November 2016. 2.5 years later, as this case was going cold, his family confronted with another murder. Cousin Joseph Billie gunned down in the middle of Hondo Street. This was in June of 2019. This case also cold. Sharon Shepard is aunt to both men. She's here to talk about them, their murders, and what happens to a family when time presents no answers. Sharon, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Before we get to those tragic days, I want to talk with you about both boys, who they are and what they leave behind.
Edmond Ford is the oldest of the grandchildren. And firstborn grandson. Lovable father, brother, just good to the family. He was always a very ongoing person, loved to spend time with the kids, going on trips, fishing, just doing fatherly things. Joseph, he was like a jokester. He always come in cracking jokes and stuff, but he was always happy. And they both just made the room light up when they come in, with the family.
A big void.
A big void is gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talk to us about November 16th and then bring us fast forward to June 2019. I want to mention these murders are not believed to be connected. Both are unsolved today.
Correct. I got a call. I was cooking breakfast, got a call and say, come quick, Edmond's been shot. And I'm like, what? Edmond's been shot. So I just got dressed, and when I got over there, he was already gone when I got there. That was the worst thing.
That was in November of 2016.
That was November 2016. And just dealing with that, with family, and, we're trying to get through that. And then a few years later, I get another call. Well, actually, I saw it on TV, but I did not know it was Joseph at the time until I got a call about an hour later from his sister, and it was him. So another void in the family.
What does years of no answers do to a family?
It brings your spirit down. You're just sad because you're not sure what's going on around you. You're not sure if that person's out there hurting another family. And it just is very saddening because you can't find out why. Why did this happen? Why did they take them from us at such a young age, leaving behind children that does not have a father?
Do you begin to lose hope at all?
Sometimes I do, but I have to just keep trusting in God that one day someone will come forward and give us some information on either one. If I can just get one solved, I would be good.
I know we met more than a year ago.
Yes.
It was a Tuesday night at Crime
Yes.
Stoppers.
Yes.
I stopped by a meeting after work one evening to talk to loved ones of victims of unsolved cases.
Right.
And at the time, I floated around the idea of launching a new series at the time called Z Files that would shed light
Right.
on cold cases, missing persons cases within marginalized communities. And I remember talking to a whole handful of families, including you.
Right.
And it was really important to once I saw the need, right?
Right.
Once I saw there was a major need for something like this, I thought it was appropriate to start with the person who reached out first, and that was you. And so we started telling this story about a year ago. I think it was
Right.
June of last year, and things popped up, and so we had to take care of that before we were able to get where we are today. But with that, I want to ask you: is this the first time you're speaking to media?
No.
No, you've talked to media before,
Yes.
yeah. And in some cases that we were covering with Solvable, it is the first time. It is the
Right.
first time families are given the opportunity to talk to the media, to get their loved ones' cases out. And so the focus for this series is to put a spotlight on cases within marginalized communities. And this isn't just a racial category. It's also, sexual orientation, geographically disadvantaged, age, gender. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. But what would be your message to the person or people who know something about these murders?
It would be helpful if someone would just come forward to just give our family some peace, clarity, to even other families that are waiting as well. We have these meetings at Parents of Murdered Children to try to comfort everyone, and it's a burden. Not just on me, not just on my family, but all families that are still suffering and does not know who has killed their loved ones. So from me to everyone, we would like anyone that have any information, just please come forward to just give us some clarity and some peace through this.
Some answers.
Answers, correct.
Some answers. Not saying that closure will ever be achieved, but
Right.
getting answers can be helpful.
Right.
Yeah. And as we know, there's a whole community, as you mentioned, of
Yes.
people not wanting to be part of this group, but
Right.
sadly they are, and they're just desperate for some sort of answer
Answers,
or
correct.
clarity. Okay. Well, Sharon, we so much appreciate you stopping by, chatting with us this
Thank
morning.
you.
Yeah, to learn more about Solvable, head on over to our website. That's clicktohouston.com. And of course, if you have a case you want us to examine, email us at solvable@kprc.com.
There's another video too. Yeah, I remember the meeting that he was at. I remember when he was asking about people in marginalized communities. And I understand what he's trying to do, because some people don't get as much, some cases just don't get the same amount of attention. But for like someone like me, it makes me, I don't know, it makes me kind of feel bad a little bit, because like Austin doesn't fit into any of that. He was privileged in the sense that he came from a well-off family. He's straight, white, was in college, so he's definitely not marginalized. He probably had more advantages in life than others, but it definitely happens to other people. It definitely happens to lots of us that don't fit in there, but there are a lot, at least from what I've seen, there are a lot more unsolved cases from specific communities. And I know what he's trying to say, and it's not his fault that it makes me feel a certain way, but I appreciate what he's doing, but it does, yeah, makes it, because I've never really thought about it like that, like he doesn't fit these boxes or anything. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why his murder didn't get attention because he's just a straight white guy. There's nothing to make TV about, and it's stupid.
Well, that's what's so terrible about the genre of true crime, and that's where I'll splice it with and go right into my true grime rant, because that's what it is. It's grimy when people have to be boxed into certain descriptors in order to get any type of media attention, and I could see that Zach is trying to do some good out there, but you just can't work off a checklist. Someone who lost their life by violence, and that's it. It should just stand at that. And we just got to do whatever we can universally to get them the attention, to support the families that survive, and help them with a path forward, understanding just the process. And we collectively we abandon them.
Yeah, it's like, I understand that some other communities need more help, but I hate that, like, certain things have become such a focus, like race and crime. I mean, there's a lot that goes together with that, and people are very sensitive when it comes to race right now, because even with the media blurb that the police did with Austin, it said Austin's race and it said the murderer's race. But when the police posted it, nobody was upset that Austin was murdered. They were upset that the police said that the aggressor was a black male. But it's like, he is a black male and Austin was a white male. I've never sat there and thought, oh, a black man killed Austin. That's never been my thought process, but it was very upsetting to see that somebody cared more about the police saying the perpetrator's race than they did about Austin losing his life. And I think that's probably what it is that bothers me, is that people came out to speak up for the murderer just because somebody mentioned his race, but Austin is literally dead. I don't give a shit what his race is. I Yeah, I just want him held accountable regardless of who he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
Kerry, you make a great point, and trust me, I see it, I know it. My map is predominantly marginalized minorities, and I think Jess and I either talked privately, or I think we did it on the Unidentified show, where descriptors for minorities are non-existent. Comparisons for minorities are not non-existent, and that's for several reasons. But and we can get into that at another time during another show, because I do want to continue to revisit some of our unidentified. But it's sad all around that there isn't enough infrastructure to warrant attention. Someone in one of the shows, I don't know where it was, a Joe show or something or other, that sometimes when a TV goes, like CNN, if you're streaming and it goes to commercial break, you just sit there with the logo for 30 seconds to 60 seconds. How about running missing person posters during that? And I don't know where I saw it. I thought it was a great idea. I should have bookmarked it somewhere in my brain, but imagine if we did things like that.
I
I
think that's a great
remember,
idea.
yeah, I remember looking at the milk cartons and just reading stories about that. In New York, I remember Eating Pats being on the milk cover, and reading about this missing and ultimately murdered 8-year-old boy. So there's a lot. I thought I muted everything. Sorry. um, but yeah, go ahead. I have to answer this one.
Oh, you're fine. So they did have another part of the interview. This is 3 minutes, so this is gonna have the other cousin, and I do completely understand that there is a need for help in these communities. It's the thing that bothers me is like the example that I gave, when the focus on race is in the wrong thing. in this specific instance, this is okay. But yeah, because sometimes when I rant, it makes sense in my head, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm upset about that.
Cold cases within marginalized communities. KPRC2's new series Solvable draws attention to unsolved cases, hoping to bring answers to loved ones looking for justice.
Tonight, our Zach Lashway introduces us to one Houston family who lost two young men to guns years apart. Both cases have gone cold.
First cousins Edmond Ford and Joseph Billie, born and died 3 years apart. How would you describe Joseph?
Funny. Always coming, what's up, y'all? Just lit up the room.
How would you describe Edmond?
A lovable person, loved his family.
Sharon Shepard remembering her nephews. Edmond was murdered inside his apartment on Woodfair Drive in November 2016. Police say there was a knock at the door. Edmond answered and was shot to death. A witness inside the apartment escaped through a bedroom window, only to be confronted by the suspect and another man at gunpoint in the courtyard of the complex. She survived. The men took off.
Well, Edmond, you know, he was my favorite cousin, and we were like peas in a pod.
From kids to adults, Andrea Jones was close with Edmond, even after he became a father.
Very hard, because I believe every child needs their father.
2.5 years later, life for Edmond's family would get worse. Not only was his case going cold, but his cousin, Joseph, was found dead in the middle of Hondo Street on June 28, 2019, also shot to death. Police do not have a description of the killer.
It was awful. It was an awful experience.
Kimberly Castleberry Billie is Joseph's older sister.
Joseph was hilarious. He made everybody laugh. He was a protector for his family.
Joseph, also a father, leaves behind 3 girls.
If you know something to say something, you just put yourself in my shoes. If your brother was brutally murdered in the middle of the street and no one has come to speak up, you would have an issue with that.
Pain from murder is unimaginable, and the hurt from murders not solved, even worse.
Why?
We need some type of answer.
I want to make sure that we get justice, not just for Edmond, but for Joseph and for my family.
And yet, so many families experience this pain. If you know anything about either of these murders, you're asked to reach out to Crime Stoppers. And of course, if you have a case you'd like us to examine, email us at solvable@kprc.com. In Houston, I'm Zach Lashway.
That editing was definitely top tier. They were being so dramatic with that editing. But yeah, so that's Sharon and the rest of her family talking about the cousins. I loved the family photo of like all of the big family and the kids are making faces in the middle. I loved that. And it's hard enough to have to carry the pain of one homicide in your family and to add the layer of a cold case to it and then have it happen again. Like, that family has been through so much. And I appreciate Zach very much that he's covering and making a series about this. And I thought he did a very good job with how he interviewed Sharon. So we'll see how he does with the rest of the families. But so far, so good, Zach. I like you. But so that is Edmond and Joseph. I will share their flyers on Twitter. Sorry, I can't think. But yes, so let's just send some good vibes, prayer, whatever it is that you believe in to this family, that they get the answers that they need.
And that, it creates generational trauma. I equate that, if you can even use that phrase, to what the family of Shannon Gilbert has gone through. It's generational. And don't really want to share it, but when my phone rang, that's who was texting me, and I jumped. Like, that's it. You know, you have to, and I want to. I want to be there to support, and I hope that this family finds those resources. I hope those resources find the family. That's a better way of putting it. The family doesn't know what's out there.
Yeah. The Sharon has been like the matriarch of the family. Her sister even like moved away because she couldn't take that her son was one of her sisters moved away. It's she actually accepted an award from the mayor's office on behalf of parents of murdered children. She's very involved. So the family is lucky that they have somebody, so strong and outspoken. Not every family has that. Not everybody has that kind of strength. And sometimes it requires somebody that's not related coming in and do it. But I wish nothing but the best for them. I hope that they get the answers that they need.
So very true. I really do. And I think that's part of why I needed an extra day off last week, because you try to balance all of that and support everyone, and sometimes you just need to decompress.
Absolutely. I've been, if you follow me on Twitter, you will see all the baking I've been doing
Oh my God, yes.
to try to decompress. I made bagels, donuts, bread. I think pretzels are going to be next. But yeah, I sleep and bake and cook and stuff like that. So I am trying to do things to help with my mental health too. So yeah, I get it because I'm trying to help out so many people, and sometimes there's nothing I can do. And one of the worst feelings is having to tell somebody, I don't know what we can do from here. I can't give you the answers that you want. I can't force the police to talk to you. I can't force anybody. I can listen to you, but that's all I can do. And sometimes I feel so powerless, but I'm here. So it sucks not being able to just change things with just a snap. And I know you know what that feels like because you deal with a few different police departments up there that aren't. Yeah.
I'm gonna be picking a fight with one of them starting this weekend. But they're yeah. The ball was in their court and they're not picking up the ball. And sorry, we're in the middle. We got to get going. Yeah. So I wanted to share something, someone, and I wanted to do it last week because the day that we were going to do last week's show was would have been the 60th birthday of this missing teenager. Why did I say 60th? It would have been. So I'm going to share. Let me bring this up and see how we do this. Okay, yes, it worked. I'm getting so much better at this. I want to talk about Janice Fullam. And it's an interesting and curious story. And for me, it resonates an awful lot about, what I was doing in 1980, because I'm old enough, and what life was like back then. And, Janice was a very interesting and captivating person. So at 17 years of age, Janice was described by her friends and family as an independent and free spirit, and looked older than her age. To her family, Janice was a sensitive teenager, close to her two brothers and an older sister. She got along well at school, but did not attract attention. Her teachers described her as conscientious, I was going to hit that word, hardworking, and generally a C student. She dated frequently and had framed paintings of children and posters of rock groups decorated on her bedroom walls. Who didn't, right? But Janice also had another side. In the summer of 1981, Janice had been arrested on charges of criminal sale of a controlled substance, LSD, to an undercover narcotics officer on 3 separate occasions at the grounds of the Smithtown West High School. That's in Suffolk County on Long Island. She had pleaded guilty to... Whoa. What did I do?
I might have accidentally hit
Oh,
something.
no, I can do that.
Sorry. I'm
No, that's
sorry.
okay. I was like, what happened?
Oh, maybe hold on. I think
You hit one of the tabs.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like she was a teenager when she got arrested?
Yes.
Like that's so stupid. It's not like she's some big time drug dealer. She's a freaking teenager.
Well, you're going to hear what happens, and it's also going to be somewhat reminiscent of Dawn and I guess tactics that, law enforcement is going to do. Plus, we're talking about 1980, where Suffolk County back then was as, corrupt, if anything. You look at Jimmy the King, written by Gus Garcia Roberts, about James Burke, and Burke was running drugs pretty much his whole... It was a crook with a badge. So, but I never want to make any of this about evil people. She had pleaded not guilty to one of the sales as part of a plea bargain and faced the possibility of a year in jail. She was to face sentencing 5 days after her disappearance. The day before Janice disappeared on October 30th, 1981, a girlfriend arrested on a similar charge had been sentenced to 45 days in jail and 5 years probation. According to Janice's sister, that girlfriend had been in prison before and had told Janice that sometimes women were sexually assaulted by other female inmates. Janice was very scared that she would be raped, her sister had said. And okay. As many reasons as Janice had to flee, she also had reasons to stay. She got along well with her father, James, a New York City Fire Department lieutenant, and her mom, Joan, a station clerk at the University Hospital at Stony Brook. And only hours before she would leave her home, she learned that she had been hired as a waitress at a local restaurant. She was sufficiently excited to call her mom, who was working a late shift, at about 6:30 p.m. to tell her about it, and she had a new boyfriend as well. Quote, everything was going right for her, end quote, said one of her best friends at the time. She got a job, she had a new boyfriend, she wasn't like the others, he really cared about her, she had a lot going for her. Outside of school, there was a more daring side to Janice. She hitchhiked frequently, she smoked pot. Like, who didn't? Like, at that age... I mean, seriously, at that time, period, too.
Yeah.
After her mother discovered $840 in singles in her pocketbook, she admitted to her mom that she made it by selling marijuana. She promised never to deal again, but police say she broke the promise. Her sister said Janice tried LSD, and police say she started selling that too. According to law enforcement at the time, drug dealing enabled Janice to buy expensive clothing and tickets to rock concerts. She liked the money, but quickly began having second thoughts about selling LSD and frequently expressed fears about getting caught. She was arrested on June 18th, 1981 at her house and was allowed to come to the station house with her parents the following day. A plea bargain... Hold on, sorry. Oh my gosh. Just give me 1 second. It's going to be noisy out there. A plea bargain was arranged, provided that Janice, and according to police, Janice agreed to act as an informant, but proved ineffective because word had gotten out that she had been arrested and would not be able to make any buys. On the night of her disappearance, Friday, October 30th, 1981, Janice was headed to meet up with her brother at a local bar, approximately a mile away from her home. From the bar, Janice and her brother Jimmy planned to travel to New York City to go to a nightclub. Even though Janice was only 17, she, like many other teens, had a fake ID. I know I did. Somewhere I still have it. She left her home around 9:30 p.m. wearing jeans, a blue and red striped pullover, and a maroon leather jacket. On the way towards the bar, Janice stopped at a friend's home to see if they would accompany her for the evening. To that friend's ultimate despair, she didn't go with Janice, and after leaving and then returning an hour later because she could not find her brother, Janice left her friend's house at 10:45 p.m., walked off, and was never seen again. I mean, an average 17-year-old, perhaps you get a little caught up in from doing drugs to selling a little bit, you get the extra cash, and in a way you're also groomed into that as well. If you're independent, vibrant, um, with a sense of self, then people will groom and try to do what they can to capitalize and take advantage and manipulate. And whether it's grooming them for drug use or survival work or anything else, there's nothing but predators out there. Now, there's a couple of things that I'll put one more slide up. There were some theories about her disappearance. One, because of the selling of the drugs and the fact that she had allegedly agreed to be a CI, that there was some sort of retribution or retaliation against someone willing to snitch on what they know. That's always a possibility. I'd have to imagine that Suffolk County PD, and this is going to really taste bad in my mouth, did their due diligence, but we just don't know. So there's the drug and confidential informant angle. It could have been mob related. In one of the online forums, a friend of the family had said that there was a member of the Roy DeMeo mob crew who supposedly lived nearby. It's a long drive to go from Smithtown to close to where I'm at in Brooklyn, where the Gemini Lounge was, where the DeMeo crew, had their headquarters. But that's entirely possible. And then there's always the possibility of an early list victim. In 1981, Rex was more than capable of murder. I mean, I'm gonna say that. I'm not even gonna say allegedly. I really don't care. But we don't know. So there was nothing really to place someone like a Rex Uerman out there. But we don't know where, if that was the case, where any contact could have come from. In
Right.
1981, Rex was working at Jones Beach. Is it possible that sort of overlapping? We may never know that. But I did think about Janice a lot, last week during the whole Suffolk County task force, examining places like Manorville and North Sea, and while it's not necessarily so close to Smithtown, it's not that far either, relatively speaking. So, I wanted to share Janice because I seem to be sharing cases or persons' lives, and sorry about the outside noise, but that might have some sort of overlapping scope regarding Rex or the Long Island serial killer. I have one of my documents is a document that has all of the attributed and possible victims, and then it has extended victims, and they're extended until we can sort of extrapolate any type of contact. So
Right.
Janice will always remain out there for me as a possible list victim. I believe that Eve Wilkowitz was also a list. Like I almost would, bet my hair I lost. But, so when we found out that Eve Wilkowitz wasn't a list victim, like that was a beautiful thing. But we need to continue to solve these cases. And with Eve, there was DNA. With Janice, there's just a large question mark. We don't know.
So do the police now believe that she is a missing person, or do they think that she's a fugitive?
I don't think that that's been clarified. Those articles were from a number of years ago, and I don't know how much bandwidth Suffolk County can muster up at the moment. as much as I chastise them, they do still every once in a while stop traffic to allow ducklings to cross the road, which is just an old time irk of mine. But I think if they're looking at all things in all cases, as District Attorney Tierney is saying, then there's hope that either they'll catch something, find her somewhere, or discover her in some location. And you'll see it in that last paragraph. The Pine Barrens on Long Island, the preserves, they're massive. Even the ones in relatively urban areas like the Massapequa Park Preserve, like it's still pretty massive. And there's just a lot of places where someone can be. I there isn't a time I drive on a highway and look at the side roads and the shoulder and go, wow, you just don't know, and it's sad.
You really don't know, and it's a lot easier to miss that there's somebody right there. Um, so I don't know. This was like a year ago or whatever, and I even tweeted about this when it happened because it disturbed me so much. Um, so I'm just gonna warn you guys that what I'm about to tell you, is might bother you. It definitely bothered me for a while after it happened. Um, so my roommate, he was having issues with his car, so I was picking it up. This was before we moved, and when I went and picked him up and dropped him off, like I noticed this smell, and I thought, oh, well, there's normally dogs running around here, so maybe one of the dogs got hit and it died. Come to find out later on that day, the neighbor that lived next door to his job, that was an elderly man, had died, and he was in the ditch that I was only a couple feet away from where he was, and I couldn't see him because it was a deep ditch and there was this pipe there. And not that there was not anything that I could have done for him, but it bothered me so much that I was so close to another human being and I had no clue that he was there and that he died. And maybe it's because I'm just so empathetic that it bothered me so much. But like, yeah, I cried about that for a few days. But people think that it's not easy to miss. It is very easy to miss. And it's not like it has a specific smell if it's a human or dog, you know. I hate to say that I know that it's a similar smell, it's just, yeah. So and especially when it's become skeletal remains, that's going to be a lot harder to find and see. And I actually even went back after they got him and I took pictures because I needed to understand how I missed that. Like I stood at different angles and took photos, like, so yeah. And I could go on and on about that too, because people do comment about certain things about cases, like how could you miss that this was right there and whatever. Or I saw someone comment that they thought it was a conspiracy with one of the cases, that it was filed incorrectly. But people make mistakes too. Uh, police make mistakes, and people make mistakes. It's not always like a conspiracy. It's Yeah, it's things aren't always as simple and easy as people think at all. So hopefully, I mean, but the police haven't even officially declared her missing, so it's not like they've gone out and looked for her or anything. Did her family ever, like, they got like groups out and went and looked and stuff too,
Yeah,
I'm guessing?
absolutely. Yeah, she was absolutely loved and adored by her family. It's very hard. I mean, the contact that I've had is they're grateful, but they're not. They're just keeping close ranks. We've seen that so many times before, in so many cases. I mean, the poor family of Jessika Taylor, who were so shattered and grieving so hard, couldn't say anything. They couldn't. It was too hard, and it's not their fault. It's the fault of every other person out there that began creating these false narratives. And big part of what I try to represent, and I know there's several others that do it as well, is to allow that family to reclaim their narrative, the truth, about how their family member is loved, about how they love them. And the same for the absolute same for Janice Fulham's family, and so many others. Like the map for me is just, it's a blessing and a curse, because I can look at that map and I can get motivated by it, I can be overwhelmed by it, and I can just be absolutely broken down by it. And this, I mean, in 2 days that map will be 2 years old. And in these 2 years, that there's almost 12,000 people on that map, and I haven't finished the 3 states that I wanted to get. My plan was to have all the states done in time for May 24th, which is the second anniversary of me creating that map and really starting to go with it. But I became completely compelled to advocate for the family of Dawn Holt. And I still work on the map. I give myself an hour every day to work on that map, but it can be challenging, especially just the bandwidth of everything. So it's so many things that can be done for any of these victims, for any of these missing persons, for any of these cold cases. And anything that I'm able to do, an hour of my time with you sharing this show and the people that we share, it means so much. That hour is worth the effort to prepare it all and to do it, and to get my hair done. But even someone telling an ethical representation of this missing person's life is doing a service. Someone sharing a flyer is doing a service. Somebody standing up and correcting someone's bad behavior on a tweet or on a Facebook post or in the cesspool that is Reddit, and just holding trolls accountable. You're doing important work by doing just that. And
Absolutely.
that's advocacy in action. That's advocacy in action. The littlest things carry such a monumental impact. It is truly dropping even a small pebble in a pond creates a ripple that transcends the entirety of the pond. Everybody can do that.
Absolutely. Fully agree. Everybody can share a flyer, can call. Don't, if you see somebody harassing family members of a known victim or someone that's missing or whatever, call them out. Show the family that you're supporting them. They need to know that there is support out there. Be kind to murdered and missing family members. It's hard enough to be forced out into the public and the limelight. So, just be kind. Don't have problematic speculation. Don't harass family members. It's all about making sure that we're doing the right thing and being kind to one another, because they're already going through enough. It's already hard enough to be
Yeah, and I
dealing
think
with all that.
and it's even just having a sensitivity to your own ignorance. Like, I look back at me when I started getting in the Facebook groups and being opinionated, or being a little bit more outspoken, or even having the courage to think, I got this fact right, I'm going to put it out there, and you got to fight the mud that's coming at you. And I learned a whole lot. I still continue to learn, because I'm still human, and I'm close to these people, this case, and oftentimes my emotions will get the better of me, and I still learn to evolve. You have to learn to evolve. If you don't have an open mind, if you do not embrace another opinion, another layer of insight, then you're going to fall and find yourself on the outskirts of troll land, and that's where you wind up belonging. And that's why this little community that never thought I'd find it on Twitter, on Twitter, is so special and endearing, and it has brought me into contact with some of the most in, incredible people I think I'll ever know. Like I think that I will ever know, and I'm just blessed and honored, and I learn every day. I try to represent at a higher level, um, and I'm not always successful at that. But I set off each day, each tweet, each post, each email, whatever I'm doing. I stop before I hit send, and I look at it through several different lenses. And that's the only way to continue to evolve in this space if you want to be ethical and do it properly.
I agree, and I think it's also taking accountability when you do make a mistake and recognizing, that maybe something you said upset someone, or maybe it wasn't the right thing to say. I also get emotional, and I'll rewrite what I'm doing multiple times. And sometimes I have word vomit, where I say, especially on the live streams, where I say what I'm thinking, but it comes out weird. So then I need to like retry to make it sound, because I worry about something sounding offensive that isn't what my intent was. But I mean, I have PTSD, I have ADHD, so I'm not always the best wordsmith, so I do appreciate everybody trying to understand where I'm coming from most of the time, because sometimes I don't even know what I'm saying, and I'll be like, yeah, the thing, but I feel like you guys get me for the most part. But if I do ever make a mistake, it's totally okay to let me know. I appreciate being told if I do make a mistake, and I want to continue to be an ethical person. I don't want anybody to ever look at me and or our space and not want to interact because it's a negative space. Or I want people to know this is a safe space for victims. Victims are first. Victims' families are welcome. And it is completely amazing that I have met the people that I have met on social media. If I wasn't trying to do what I'm doing, I would delete social media, because it is a toxic place. But there's so much good out there that we can do, and trying so hard to ignore it, to just focus on the good.
Well, I'll tell you
Uh,
one thing. I was talking with one of the family members the other day, and just sort of spitball in the future. And for me, as like the first thing I'd love to do is absolutely self-destruct the Facebook group that I run on List. Like I just want to hit delete and fuck off. Like that's it. You know, not necessarily for the people that are in it, but because, and this is what I told them, and I say it off. I'll tweet about this every once in a while, depending on the topic. But the victim belongs to the family member, and the family, and they should go back to the family and be removed from the public space and the public fodder and the whole, you know, diatribe about them. Whether if it's, let's just use Peaches. If Peaches gets identified and her case gets solved and someone's convicted for her murder, Rex, then that's it. Give Peaches and her daughter back to the family, and publicly retreat, and maybe we go on to something else and evolve into something else. I I was asked if I would burn the catch list brand. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's given me a bigger platform. But I don't feel it's my platform to own. Everything that I do is is for the benefit of the family members and the victims themselves and anybody else that I've come into contact with, the family of Dawn or Stacy or Janelle, and that's it. But my brand can evolve into something else. There's a whole map that I can work that out, and I don't think I can ever walk away from this community now, because it is the sort of representation of my soul and who I always wanted to be as a human, as a person. But I just want everything Lisk to just go away, and he'll never get out of jail, and we can just forget about all of this nonsense, but never forget about the victims and their families. And that's the important thing. I'm talking way too much.
No, of course. No, you're not. And I agree. If the family, if let's say Peaches is identified and there's a conviction, if the family doesn't want to discuss it, then yeah, put it away. Because there are family members on Twitter with other very well-known person, like their loved one was missing or murdered, and they've become very vocal about creators taking their story and people taking over, their loved one's story. So it's just, yeah, do stuff with permission, do stuff with good intent. That's all that you can really ask.
Yeah, sorry, I had to run. I had my oven on, and I just needed to turn it off.
Oh, you're fine. I don't want you to burn down your house.
I happen to be a very good cook, so I know when the food is telling me it's done, and I kind of planned it and timed it for the end of the show.
Good.
Because right after that,
the Rangers game.
Eastern Conference starts game one in a little bit. I wanted to say one thing. I don't know if you're going to do it on Saturday, but I really miss Mob Wives replay. Just putting that out there. No pressure whatsoever. I'm probably going to be busy at work this weekend anyway, but doesn't matter. Just putting that out there.
I'm gonna try.
Is banging. It's banging.
Oh yeah, like I love that series so much. Yeah, I am gonna be back on my channel tomorrow morning for the crime recap. We'll see. Saturday maybe we'll do Mob Wives, and then Monday I'll be on my channel to finish the From Ashes to Advocacy series. The 5-year anniversary of Austin's murder is on May 28th. So Memorial Day is the day before that. I think one of the other reasons why I haven't necessarily been in the best headspace is it's coming up on that anniversary. Memorial Day weekend sucks for me for that, reason. I keep thinking about, what was I doing 5 years ago around this time? I was preparing to go on this work thing and go to College Station for a couple of days, and I was gone for the weekend beforehand, and I only saw him for a very short period before that happened. So, yeah, I don't like Memorial Day, and then so Monday I'll be talking about the investigation and that stuff. So that's the 27th. And then CrimeCon is coming on the 30th. So I'm going to CrimeCon Thursday. So that'll keep me busy next week. So I'm like anxious, nervous. But I think it'll be good for me to be there because otherwise I'll probably just sleep or not really do anything. Because like I said, I get in a negative, bad. The summer sucks for me in general. So I'll try.
I have it on my, of course, calendar, and I know the date is coming up, and whatever you need from me, you always have full access to me. You can text me, call me, whatever you want. I'm always going to be there for you. You know that. And I wow. I always want to give people like you, and I don't mean that in any wrong way, people that have that close, horrifying impact of your life, a victim. I don't ever want to just make the assumption I can just call. I can just text. I'm always very respectful of that and never want to intrude on your life. And I do that with many of the family members and friends that I do talk with. Like, it's no, it's all right. Like, you don't call me. Well, because, you don't need to talk to me. Like, who am I? But I'm very, very much aware of that day. And I'm conscious of it. And I feel very heavy for it already. And my love is going to be with you.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. Yeah, it's I've told you some of the stuff that's been going on. So it's like all that stuff's going on. It's starting to be that time of year cuz like some people get, seasonal depression. I do too, but it's like in the summer. It's like the summer is always tough for me cuz it's, we have Mother's Day, then Austin's murder anniversary, and then Father's Day, my birthday, uh, my dad's anniversary of his death, my mom's anniversary of her death, and Austin's birthday. So both of my parents died in August, and Austin's birthday is in August. My dad's birthday is in May, and Austin's anniversary of his death is in May. I mean, there's no really connection with that, but there is for me in some weird reason. My mind is connecting it. But yeah, so there's just a lot in the next few months. And then the holidays, I'm not a big fan of. So I'm trying to stay busy this summer. So CrimeCon, I'll be in Nashville from the 30th to the 3rd. And then I'm going to the uh, True Crime and Paranormal Podcast
Paranormal.
Festival in Colorado in July. So, trying to stay as active as possible.
Tell Lainey I
And
love her.
I will. You need to come. It's in
No.
July. You have time. You should come. Shay's coming with me.
I love Shade too.
Yeah, so she's coming, and there's going to be a lot of people there. Yes, there's grief sucks. Grief is heavy, and nobody talks about it because death is that way. It doesn't matter how somebody died, people get weird around death in general. So yeah, should definitely talk about that
Yeah, that's
one.
something, writing that down. That's something that we can definitely get some experts too from a professional side, and how, like, your perspective on grief. I can tap into, with the loss of my brother and what I experienced back then, and the grief process, the change cycle, and the paths forward. So yeah, that's Brooklyn is the best.
Yes, I fully agree. Grief is complicated, and it is something that we need to discuss because, like when I go to the parents of murdered children meetings, when people talk, they talk about these symptoms that they're having, and like they can't sleep, or they have memory fog, or they get startled easily, and it's just like you have post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's like where nobody's talking about that. There's so many people in that room that have post-traumatic stress disorder. Like grief is one thing, but then we have this trauma on top of it. So we need to know how to recognize it and get the help, because the only way you can prevent PTSD is getting help in the very beginning. And yes, so we will definitely have that conversation for sure. I love that, Brooklyn. And I'll see if I can talk to Dr. Canty, because
Yes.
she is
Yeah.
psychologist.
Psychologist. Yeah.
Well, I don't want your dinner to get cold. I
It
don't want.
won't. The oven's still hot.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. Thank you again for allowing me to grace your channel, our channel.
Yeah, this is ours. This is
Allow,
ours together.
just for getting me to do this. Thank you. I cringe.
Well, I get anxious every time. I get all worked up and anxious internally every time, and it's just because I care. But it's like when I do the other streams, totally fine. It's just I care and I want to make sure that I give that I do right by the families. I don't want to say something wrong. I don't want to do anything wrong, and I do worry about my babbling sometimes, and those kinds of things. Yeah, so I totally understand. Yes, and let's remember that with Memorial Day coming up, there's a lot of veterans that have lost people, and don't set off fireworks in your neighborhood, please. I don't like it. It freaks me out. So I can only imagine what it's like for veterans that had things like that going on around them. Like, I hate being startled. I hate loud noises. But I don't have the same. I have PTSD, but with I used to work with veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, so I see the difference between the civilian and veteran post-traumatic stress. So just be kind and remember that your neighbors don't want to hear fireworks till 1 o'clock in the morning either. So don't do that. Don't be a jerk. And if you're not supposed to set fireworks off in your area, don't do it. You're probably going to set off a fire. Smokey the Bear is going to come after you. Just be kind, be nice, be respectful. And Memorial Day is because of the people that died for our country. So let's respect them.
Yeah, it's not about a barbecue. It's not about what fancy, pretentious fucking hot dog you bought at an overpriced store. It's about someone that lost their life.
Yes, absolutely. So it's okay if you want to have fireworks, but do it in the right place, do it in the right space. Check to see if it's even legal in your area. Don't set off fireworks that are just loud and obnoxious. If you're going to be loud, at least have them be pretty, you know. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of all that stuff either. I actually need to get a sign that says "Do not knock on my door" for like any reason whatsoever, because it triggers me when I'm surprised and somebody's at the door, and I can't tell you how many people have knocked on my damn door for wanting to trim my trees or the lawn, and it's just I hate it. And it's like I can't yell at them. It's not their fault, but like, yeah, I need to get a sign because once my adrenaline gets going, there's nothing I can do about it. Like, I have medication, but it only works so quick, and I'd like to not do that. Yes, lay flowers at the cemetery on Memorial Day. Some areas have veteran cemeteries. Houston has a big veteran cemetery that they're going to be doing stuff like that. Check out your local VFW, American Legion. They might be doing stuff for veterans, you know. And I've heard some really horrific stories from veterans with the things that they've seen and gone through. So, you know, let's just remember to take some time on Memorial Day, and then join me on Memorial Day to hear my story and the rest of the investigation and what happened with Austin. And I'm going to stop babbling and make dinner.
Thank you again. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you tomorrow morning on my channel, and see you Monday again on my channel. And then we'll be back next week. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Good night.